Okay, it looks like we already have a question in the chat.
Really?
Yeah.
Lots of chat going on.
Okay, I have it 9 a.m. Central Time. Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Suburban Chicago Apple Users Group. My name is George Brooks, and I will be your host today as our virtual meeting. I want to welcome everyone today on this beautiful, gorgeous May 6th, 2020.
June.
Oh, excuse me, June. Oh, it's June. Thank you, Dave. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And today we're going to start off with that was actually Dave Ginsburg. As I said, I'm George Brooks. We're going to start off with our president of the Suburban Chicago Apple Users Group, Dave Ginsburg, who will host our iOS section. Go ahead, Dave.
Thanks, George. Appreciate it. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome everybody here to our meeting. Also want to make sure I acknowledge if there are any guests that are in the room here. We did send out this meeting out to many guests across Facebook as well as our former members list. So I welcome all of you here as well. And let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to actually talk a few news stories before I went into my topic of talking about third-party browsers here. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we can get started. All right. One moment here. So first story I want to talk about here. This is, I believe, make sure everybody can see that. Yes. George, everybody can see that okay? You can see that?
Yes, we can see it, Dave.
Okay, very good. I want to make sure I'm confirming. So the first topic was iOS 13.5 came out about a week and a half ago. Then a week later, we had an update with iOS 13.5.1, which was a fix that had a security fix. Actually, there was a jailbreak vulnerability that was out there, and it was pretty bad. So Apple went ahead and released 13.5.1. It's a minor update, but it's important that you do update your phones to your iPhones to this, so it's protected. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. The other story I wanted to mention is 13.5.5 is a beta that has come out, and of course, no one runs beta unless you live on the edge and you don't want to be doing that. But I wanted to just kind of give you some suggestions of what's going to be upcoming in the next beta. Of course, the Worldwide Developers Conference is going to be coming up pretty soon here on June 22nd. But in the meantime, Apple did put in beta 13.5.5 because there are some new features they want to add beforehand. One of them was that it suggests that they were showing that there's a services bundle that's going to be offered, because the code that was in this beta was suggesting that they may offer something like Apple News Plus and Apple TV Plus as a bundle, and you'd get a better pricing for it. Because right now the Apple News Plus is $9.99 a month, and the Apple TV Plus is $4.99. So you might get a little bit discount if you were to bundle it. So just wanted to give that news story out there as a suggestion there as well. And then also what they've done is there was other code, News Plus. Actually, if you were a News Plus subscriber, I'll just share this. This is share the right one here. There we go. News Plus is actually going to have audio built into it, so it'll actually be. And this kind of is a good theme of for our next speaker later with Becky talking about podcasts. Um, Down here at the bottom here, if you see this, if you see this down here, this is a hold on, sorry, I didn't mean to start that. It has an actual button down here that you actually can listen to audio. So this gives you the option of being able to listen to an actual story while it's playing and while it uh, uh, instead of you having to read it. So it gives you an option to be able to listen to it while you're on the go, if you're in the car, if you're driving around, if you're going for a run, and instead of having to read this new story. So this is going to be interesting and kind of exciting to see where all that goes. So those were a couple of stories here. George, do we have any other questions before I move on here? Did I lose you, George?
None at this time there, Dave.
Okay, great. All right, so let me go ahead and move on to my topic here. We're going to share my iPhone here, and we're going to talk about the third-party browsers. Here, let's get transitions. Got that. And let me share again here. Bear with me. Screen. And got that. Can you confirm everybody you can see that, George?
Yes, we can. By the way, if anybody has any questions during Dave's presentation, please don't hesitate to place them in the chat for the question and answer here. Thank you.
Okay, so first off, browsers. The Safari has been the mainstay browser for the iPhone for a long time, and of course, you want to be able to browse the internet. And unfortunately, you never had any choices. You always had to use Safari or as your default, and that's it. Well, a couple months ago, there was a news story out there, and there was a pretty substantial rumor that the fact that Apple is considering opening up both not only browsers but mail clients as well, because those are the two most used apps on the iPhone, of course. So being able to have a default, like let's say Microsoft Outlook for your email, or Google Chrome as your default browser. I mean, we do the same thing on our Macs now. Why not? Why not being able to do it on your iOS device as well? Apple shouldn't really have a big control of that. They should open up the market, allow a lot of these browser developers do that. So unfortunately, they don't have that option right now. But for now, you really do have some great options as far as being able to use alternate browsers. I picked my top three. Well, technically top four. The best thing about it is you have choices. Now, I wanted to show you with the haptic feedback. That's what's a great thing with browsers and with apps in general on the iPhone. And this also applies to the iPad. The browser experience on the iPad is just as robust as on the iPhone, just so you know that. So with haptic touch, what you do is you tap and touch the icon, and then it brings up this sub menu. Now here is Chrome. Now Chrome has, if you notice here, you can haptic touch the button and it brings up a menu. It also gives you suggested sites that you may have. If you had browsed before, you can go right to them on 1 and 2 taps. Now, other cool things that the haptic touch menu has here is, of course, you can delete and share the app and you can edit the home screen. But if you notice that there, it does have a scan QR code. So if you tap that scan QR code, it's going to bring it up and allow you to, if there was a code to come up, if I had one up here right now, I would scan it, and then you'd be able to get back to get to that content. It also in Chrome, it also gives you voice search. Voice search gives you options of being able to search for something via voice. Incognito would give you the option of being able to be browsing in private. The same applies for Microsoft Edge. Microsoft Edge doesn't have the QR code scanning, but it has some other features that are in here as well as you see, top sites. Edge does that, and then Firefox also does that. Firefox does have a scan QR code, and you can actually go and create a tab right on the fly here from Firefox, right from these menus. And that's what's great about these menus here. Let's talk about Firefox. Firefox is going to be the first one we're going to talk here. And what I want to do is I actually want to talk about how fast this browser is. I've noticed I've been using all these browsers for a while now, and the great thing about Firefox is its performance, the speed. It's really fast. It really has some great features as far as speed goes. The other thing with Firefox is the browser privacy, keeping things private. You'll be able to keep things very private and being able to go through. And if you want to have private browsing, you could do that. The other thing too is syncing with your browser with your Mac. If you're a Firefox user and you have all your favorites and bookmarks on there, you actually can sync. You can actually sync up with that. If you want to sync and sign up and sign into your account, if you have a Firefox account, and be able to do that. I'm going to kind of show you that. Now, what you can do is I'm going to open up a browser here, and I'm actually going to go to this site. We'll pull this off here. I can get this going here. So if you notice here, it has this site called firefox.com. That's pair. I'm going to go to that site right now, and we're going to actually scan that QR code. Let me type in the site.
Dave, if your screen is changing, the only thing we're seeing is turn on sync.
Yes,
okay.
That is. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I've just switched to the browser. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the code. And yeah, okay, I see what happened. My iPhone just went to sleep. All right, let's go back here. All right, so I'm going to be ready to scan the code here. I'm going to tap this. I'm going to try to scan this code. Now, this is the code that was up on my screen right now. I was able to scan that. So that kind of gives you a demo of how a QR code would work. And I want to approve this device because this is my Firefox account. I can click approve right here. You can't see this, but I'm clicking approve on my browser. Then I'm click continue confirm pairing. So now what it's done is it now has synced my Firefox account with my iPhone, and I can turn on notifications if I want. So now you're going to notice now if I tap in here, you see how this little guy here is doing its thing. So now that means it's doing its sync, and it's going to sync all my bookmarks, my settings. So I'll have the exact experience as far as browsing from my Mac on my iPhone or my iPad by syncing these settings. And all three of the browsers do this option. I'm just going to show it to you in Firefox just for the sake of time here. As far as tab browsing goes, you just tap the little button there. Let me go back here and show you that real quick. This button right here, which is a tab browsing here, you actually can show that by tapping and holding, and then you can go into private browser mode, or you actually can browse through the different tabs. The interface itself, as you see, is very crisp. So you actually can see that it's very crisp, very easy to read through and clean. I really like that. And then I can, as I mentioned, tab browsing is very good. Now the other browser I have is Firefox Focus, and what Firefox Focus is a true out private browser. Now, I've opened up Firefox right now, and you see that it's a standard browser. I'm not going to go into much detail from what you already saw, but you see this little there's a little garbage can at the top here. I could tap this, and what it does is it erases everything you've done, and now it's cleared out your browser history in one step. So Firefox is a really great alternative to if you want to do true continuous private browsing. The third, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a really nice feature there, Dave, to have one thing right there, right up on the browser. Right.
Yeah, it is. And then if you look in the settings here, this is the settings for Firefox Focus. You've got options, and this goes across all the browsers. Like if you want to change your search engine, of course you can do that in Safari, but you even have some more advanced ways of searching. If you want to be able to have your default search to Wikipedia or Twitter, God forbid, or DuckDuckGo, you have options to change your default search engine if you so choose. And there's a lot of ways to customizing and doing lots of things in here as well. You even can incorporate Siri shortcuts if you want to say ask her to erase and open the browser. You can do that too, which is great. So that's Firefox Focus. Third browser would be Microsoft Edge. And I'll be honest with you, I know we're a lot of us are not big fans of Microsoft, but I'm becoming pretty impressed of what Microsoft has done with this browser. Now, if anybody doesn't know, if you haven't already installed it, Microsoft Edge is now available on the Mac. You can download the browser on your Mac, and it's available as a standalone browser, just like all the rest of the browsers that are out there, and which is exciting. I think we hadn't had a Microsoft browser since what, Internet Explorer 5 or 6. It was a long time ago, but the Edge browser is now based on the Chromium platform, which is basically Google Chrome's platform. So Microsoft had decided not to have a browser anymore on their own. They're just going to go with the Chromium developing. If you tap this button here at the very bottom, it brings up a menu. And if you notice here, it gives you a lot of great features in here that you could switch around, including being able to continue on with your PC. And I remember there are PC users out there. We don't like a lot of them, but there are a lot of PC users out there that you can actually continue this on with the PC right from this menu, as well as you see all the other features that are available here in Edge. But it's very robust. I find it to be very cool as far as being able to navigate. Very easy to work with. It has the same type of sync features as I described with Firefox. You can sync everything across both platforms.
With that being Bing and Microsoft, does it actually sync with your Microsoft.com account?
It does. Yes, It does allow you to actually sync your account. Let me remember where to go there for that. If it's in here.
We do actually have a question in the chat. Have you tried the Brave browser?
I have tried Brave. Yes, Brave's another good alternative as well. I just for the sake of this presentation, I narrowed it down to my top 3. But there's so many browsers out there now. But Brave is a very good browser too. It's got a lot of good features. There's a Mac version of it as well as an iPhone iOS version, and it is also built on the Chromium, the Google Chrome platform as well. So that's another good option. Yes, I definitely agree. Okay. So if you're in I went in the settings here. If you hear right here, you can actually sign in. If you see accounts, you actually can tap sign in. Now you can turn on your sync right from your Microsoft account. So now you tap this here, just like you're used to going into a Microsoft account. You sign in. If you have your bookmarks synced across, it'll actually sync everything across both platforms. So that's a good question. All right, let me move on to the last browser before we run out of time here. I only got a couple minutes left. This is the Google Chrome browser. Again, same type of interface. You've got your tabbing, and this is unique. I kind of like this because if you tap your tab button, the number 2, if you see at the bottom there, if you tap that, it brings the tabs over for you, so you can go ahead and choose the next tab over, and you can toggle between them very easily. Did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just like, that's a nice feature.
So it does have some robust types of settings here. You can open up your browser here, and you've got menus here. Very, very easy to navigate, and that was kind of like a very short overview of 3 good, solid, different choices of browsers. Firefox, Edge, and Chrome, they're the top 3 in the marketplace as far as browsers go. Firefox Focus, that's really up to you if you really want to do a lot of private browsing. You maybe want to be private. You don't want to have a lot of your websites that you're going through and not have get all your personal information. So that's another good option. But all three of the browsers have privacy settings as well. So,
got a question here in the chat. How much memory do the browsers use?
It's very little. To be honest with you, there's not a ton of memory. I can't give you an exact number, but each browser I've used, I've never seen any performance issues at all. Now, also depends on the horsepower of the phone you have too. If you have an older phone like a 6, 6S, 7, you might see a little slowness, but overall, these apps are designed really well, and the speed, the performance is really good.
There's also a question that says, is Firefox the fastest?
Between the three, I kind of noticed that Firefox was a little faster and zippier on iOS versus the other two. Edge is out there too. I think I saw Edge to be good as well. But as we all know, Chrome can be kind of a process hog when it comes to performance.
Yes.
On the Mac side of things, and I know Google is working on that. And then you're talking Google. Your other concerns are if you're not happy with their privacy policies, that it's hard to beat that too. But I've been a big Firefox user for a long time on the Mac, and I go use the other browsers, and I end up going back because I'm just so used to using Firefox for a long time. So.
Okay, that is all the questions that we have in the chat.
All right.
At this time, I want to thank you, Dave. By the way, I do apologize for not actually introducing Dave. Dave Ginsburg is actually our current president of the Chicago Suburban Apple Users Group. He is an IT professional. He knows a lot about PCs because he works in a PC environment from his 8 to 5, as well as he is a Mac and mobile enthusiast in his profession. He also hosts a podcast, In Touch with iOS, which just celebrated its 100th episode. Isn't that right, Dave?
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, don't hesitate to go out there and check out his podcast.
I have a new episode. Isn't published yet because I just recorded it on Friday because I had a little bit of technical difficulties. Of course, I have those types of things as well. But as a good segue for Becky's presentation, there is an app called Good Pods. GOODPODS. If you go to goodpods.com, it's a social networking type of podcast app aggregator, and I'll be playing back an interview I did with the co-founder of that.
Okay.
So that's an app to check out as another alternative of the many podcast aggregators are out there. But we know everybody likes Apple Podcasts, right?
Right. Exactly. True. And with that, I'm going to actually introduce Becky Booth. Becky Booth is a grandmother, a mother. She's the daughter. She's a wife. She is our program director, and she is going to talk about podcasts. Go ahead, Becky. You might want to unmute your mic. I think it might be muted.
Yes.
You're muted.
I got you unmuted.
It's good to be here and to see all of you today. I want to thank you for that great intro. And thanks for letting me off the hook as host.
We're messed up here.
Oh, no.
Because I didn't get to share the screen first.
Okay, we're messed up here. Just give us a second.
No problem.
Okay, what did we do?
Oh, boy. Tell George. Here we go. Now we're going to share the screen.
Okay.
And now you're going to hit this.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, great. Okay, George, I was going to say, I really appreciate your being up so early to get on screen and giving me a chance to be outside for a few minutes. In fact, I took a few screenshots just to make it a little more interesting than looking at my face. Took a few pictures in the front yard. Jerry Hugg won't be too impressed with his macro lens, but we'll get you a little bit of nature as we go along. I'll also tell you what you've been missing if you're a visitor here. And that's getting to know lots of great people like Dave and George and many other friends that we've met in the group. George and I are exercise buddies with our Apple Watches. And I've noticed we haven't been having too much activity lately, George. And he knows the best deals everywhere. and he pretty much heads up the food sig when we aren't meeting virtually. I'd also like to acknowledge my husband, Ed, and thank him for his technical help and his keynote expertise. So I don't take credit for that. But back to today's program. The podcast topic was planned months ago for May, and we had no idea then we'd be adjusting our virtual programs in the midst of a pandemic, what's now being termed a loneliness epidemic, and the financial mayhem that has occurred. I'd like to say there's no more relevant topic today than podcast listening. And I have a confession. Until late last year, I hardly used this app. Sorry, Dave. I have lots of things to read, and I used any available time I had to catch up there. But the last few months have really demonstrated that podcasts can be much more timely than books or even periodicals. So today I'm going to show you why the Apple Podcast app is now my favorite, other than the iPhone camera, of course. And I'm going to share some amazing podcasts from my own library that have helped with the keeping me up at night thoughts and fears of recent months. Perhaps they will help you or someone you know. And this is a bit of a departure from many of our programs where we really delve deeply into how things work. Well, there isn't a whole lot to talk about how the Apple Podcast works. It's really pretty simple. And I'm going to focus more on the why. Why should you get familiar with it if you haven't used it, and how simple it is to get started, or to share with somebody you know who's getting pretty bored with the entertainment that they may have. Well, why are we talking about only the Apple Podcast app? Dave touched on it. We already have it on our devices. It works great, and it's very easy to tell someone else how to use it. It's mostly just obvious, intuitive to use. I'll point out a few of the features as we go along. And then, of course, Apple provides a great tutorial at support.apple.com, which is a great place to go for help with any of your questions in between our get-togethers, of course, if you need further help. I'm not going to go through that, just to show you that there's a lot of detail there. I'll only be talking about audio podcast apps today, because with no screen sharing necessary, you can easily move around as you listen, just like Dave was talking about the new way we're going to be able to get the news by having it available for mobile. And exercise will help that sleep problem. And remember, like I like to remind you, sitting is the new smoking. If you have an Apple Watch, you get that reminder to get up on your feet and keep moving around. And very honestly, as computer users, Apple users, all of us probably sit more than we should. Well, where do we go from here? A podcast app is kind of like a closet with no clothes in it, or a bookcase with no books. What are you going to listen to or add to your podcast library? Well, what kinds of things do you like in your reading library? You might start there. I'm going to share some suggestions. I just ask you to stay with me here and don't head to the podcast store just yet. The whole list will be shared as a PDF in the SCAU community. And of course, you'll have the follow-up video of this program that you can refer to see the screen again. You'll notice on the bottom, the browse feature. Apple has organized podcasts by category, which is a good starting point. You can use this browse feature for any category you can think of. I think I used it first for gardening and found a great podcast there. You can also use the search feature. If you know the exact title of a podcast or the name of the presenter or have a general topic in mind. So here we found our President Dave Ginsburg's podcast, In Touch with iOS. Here it is. I could immediately play any episode right from here without subscribing. But subscribing keeps the podcast in my library and automatically brings me notifications of the latest episodes. So even when I'm checking out a new podcast, I often subscribe right away, just so I don't have to keep going back to find it. There's a brief summary, some ratings, an episodes listing with the title and the length of each episode, and more. Some of these episode notes go so much into detail, you'll learn a lot about how you're going to be investing your time watching that podcast, which is a good point. This is all free entertainment, but your time is valuable too. Following the information for a particular podcast is a section called You Might Also Like. So Apple users can easily find other Apple-related podcasts right from this place. And our SCAU community board also has a podcast category, so you can be sure to let us know what you're listening to. For now, I'm going to move on to why COVID-19 has made podcast listening so relevant. And this is kind of a follow-up to a program we did a couple of sessions back where we talked about some of the other ways technology, Apple technology is helping us, like AnyList and some of the other things we talked about then. We'll start with one of the most important podcasts you could subscribe to, in my humble opinion, if financial concerns are keeping you or someone you know up at night. And that's Susie Orman. She titles her work Women and Money, and in small print, it says, and the men smart enough to listen. So this is for everybody. Each of her episodes is only 20 to 30 minutes, and she uses numbered episodes, which I really appreciate and wish all podcasts would do, instead of just, some of them just tell you the day of the week, or that's worse than just, or that's better than, no, that's worse than if, sorry about that, ad-libbing here, than if they give you the total date. But I really like the numbers, makes it easy to find it again. As you can see, Susie's influence is widespread. She has thousands of followers, and though she's down in the Bahamas enjoying her boat, she's also keeping very much apprised of what is going on these days, and her podcasts are extremely relevant. If you're considering any financial decision, I would check it out. Now, another exciting thing Susie has done recently is she has developed a digital do-it-yourself must-have documents kit. This includes the will, revocable trust, financial power of attorney, and the advanced directive and durable power of attorney for healthcare. And she describes why she did this, that her years of experience have shown her the heartbreaking results when these must-have documents are not in place or were created ineptly. And that was the case for a good friend of mine who has had her life ruined for over a year following her sister's death and trying to get everything sorted out. She's also created an ambassador program for those who complete the documents for themselves, and they can go on to earn a little rebate, $10 for each person that they share it with. So that's her attempt to help us have a little bit of a side hustle. I like to read a few reviews before I subscribe to a podcast, and it's paid off several times. For instance, I learned from reading a few of Susie's reviews that you want to be sure to listen using the Apple podcast app and not her website, which is also an option. Now, if you know anybody who'd like to develop a side hustle, which is earning extra money without quitting their job, this podcast is great. They're very short, 6 to 15 minute kind of case studies and Q&A of people who did just that, who created side hustles. We have a daughter who's very actively engaged in a side hustle, and we have a daughter-in-law who is now screen printing t-shirts and has set up her business online. I won't give the name of the company, but we're very proud of her. The host of Side Hustle also addresses how small businesses have been doing in the wake of COVID-19. And you'll notice here the dark screen. Fortunately, it wasn't too early in the morning at 6:43, but you'll notice I want to mention that with Bluetooth, you can listen in bed without disturbing a partner. We happen to have Philips Bluetooth hearing aids from Costco, and they are phenomenal. If you don't have those, of course, you can use the much less expensive Apple EarPods. The podcast, How I Built This, presents stories behind some of the world's best known companies, probably including some stocks you own and would like to know more about. And I especially like the current resilience series. Kind of interesting to see which companies are really dealing with the whole situation quite well. And there's a group, the Wondery Group, which represents that podcasts have gone really pro. There are whole teams of people creating them in a very professional way, spending lots of money to do so. And you'll notice the quality of podcasts has really gone up, even with the quality of all the technology available to these independent podcasters like Dave, with the quality of his microphones and so forth. If you read some of the earlier reviews, you'll notice that may have been an issue, but it no longer is. All of these guys are competing for our time and attention. And so if you listened some time ago and you got discouraged with the quality, come on back. It's really gone sky high. So this represents the Wondery Group, which creates a lot of podcasts. Their Business Wars is the longer version. Business Wars Daily is a much shorter kind of a recap of some of the important news of the day. And this is one that Ed has had fun listening to, the story of a business that wasn't his that crashed. And there's just a lot to learn about finance on podcasts. Well, maybe you thought you'd finally get organized during COVID with some of your new extra time. Spark Joy is a very useful podcast created by two women who became Marie Kondo or KonMari consultants. Maybe you saw the show on Netflix that Netflix developed on KonMari. Well, we heard Kristen Ivy, one of these two women, speak at the Arlington Heights Memorial Library last winter, and I bought her workbook, which is now a New York Times bestseller. And Kristen is a terrific, very organized woman who got into this as a new career after becoming a consultant. Her co-host is a woman from New York, and I have a little problem with her accent, but I enjoy the podcast anyway. And that brings up the point, sometimes you just have to work around an accent or two. But their Americanized version of KonMari is quite interesting, and it's much more doable than the Japanese original, in my humble opinion. Or maybe you'd like to save some money and grow your own food. Joe Gardner has created one of the most interesting, well-organized, and informative podcasts I listen to. Whether you're a vegetable gardener or not, if you care about the planet, there's a lot here for you. And quite often in the morning, I'll ask Ed what he's been listening to. It's Joe Gardner, and I can tell you this man is not a gardener. Now back to what else keeps us up at night. Health concerns. Coronavirus complications are more severe for people with the big four: obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and hypertension. That's the bad news. The good news is, fortunately, these are lifestyle conditions which can greatly be reduced or even eliminated. I was going to go live screen right now to talk to you about my own story, but we're not going to do that for technical reasons, but you can see it in the little window that I'm still here.
Wait a minute.
I'm still here. So 10 years ago, I weighed about 80 pounds more than I do now. 7 years ago, I turned to books for wisdom about some digestive issues, and the extra weight just kept melting off as I followed eating principles of Dr. Mark Hyman and others. And by the way, my knees no longer have any pain problems with osteoarthritis or the torn meniscus that was showing up in my MRIs. So I'm pretty excited about the next section of this presentation. You may have heard of Dr. Hyman from a PBS special. That's where I first got to know him, or his many books on food and eating. His current podcast is titled Doctor's Pharmacy, Pharmacy. Dr. Hyman practices functional medicine and interviews many other like-minded physicians on his podcast. I also subscribe to Broken Brain, and I've heard Ben Greenfield being interviewed on one of these podcasts. This just illustrates that the current podcast is Doctor's Pharmacy. When I checked out House Call, it was from several years ago. Mark is a great interviewer. He's always making sure to explain the terms that might not be understood by the layperson. And he teaches how to reduce inflammation, the root cause of every disease, and how to boost the immune system, to take responsibility for our own health, instead of just waiting for that magic prescription drug to be developed or that magic vaccine that's going to protect us. We can actually have something to say about how vulnerable we are. So he teaches us not just what to eat, but when, and how that affects brain health. Pretty exciting. A surprise in episode notes of one podcast with guest Mona Sharma was a free download of about a 12-page tutorial on healthy eating. So read those episode notes. You never know what will be hidden down there that you might not find otherwise. Many of his guests host their own podcasts. And this is how I found a number of my other favorites and learn more about quality sleep and dealing with stress. Currently, Dr. Hyman and his medical partners are practicing what we'll call virtual medicine at their Ultra Wellness Clinic in Massachusetts. We actually have a friend here in the area who's consulting with them for a very serious condition after trying to find help at both the Mayo Clinic and with a specialist in Arizona. We can watch for this trend to dramatically change the quality of healthcare expertise available to all of us, no matter where we are. Another excellent podcast I found is Live Healthy, Be Well by Jeffrey Smith. Jeffrey brings the latest need-to-know health and wellness news while exposing cover-ups and spin by governments and corporations. Notice the title of this one is kind of alarming. You can't blindly trust the CDC and WHO. For a lighter touch, you might enjoy a 10-part series called Food, We Need to Talk. This is hosted by a fun woman who sounds a little bit ditzy and a medical doctor from Harvard Medical School, but it's not quite such a deep dive into some of these topics. I also like Whole30 co-founder Melissa Urban. Her Do the Thing podcast has many episodes about eating and addiction. Broken Brain, which I mentioned earlier, with Drew Pruitt, focuses on brain health and functional medicine. Did you know Alzheimer's is connected to the health of the microbiome, that is gut bacteria, and the quality of our sleep, whether we brainwash at night by eating at the right time? There's lots to learn. Dave Asprey of Bulletproof Radio is a tech mogul who has spent 20 years and over $1 million on a personal health experiment crusade to upgrade the human being. His thing is longevity. He's trying to figure out how to live a lot longer. The health podcasts I've shared will definitely help you have more energy and feel terrific, in addition to changing those numbers. But emotional health also needs our attention, especially during this time. This Live Healthy, Be Well podcast with Jeffrey Smith brings a very interesting understanding of how the unknown we've all been experiencing affects us. This Broken Brain podcast explains why we should not watch or have read to us too much news. And Dr. Henry Cloud, who's a psychiatrist and author, author of the Boundaries books, produced an excellent podcast, just as we were all reeling from all the changes back in March. Since then, he's also created a live weekly program for greater connection. I shared this Boundaries podcast with a number of friends, the best thing we are doing in the midst of the crisis, what we can do to help ourselves. Another podcast I like for mindset and attitude is Rise with Rachel Hollis and her husband, Dave. Rachel is a high school graduate who has become a business powerhouse and New York Times bestselling author. She's a motivational phenomenon. Just check out the reviews. For a shorter fix, you might like The Daily Smile, again, produced by the Wondery Group and one of their newer podcasts. It brings a 15 to 20-minute uplift to leave you with a smile on your face. This is quite an antidote to the doom and gloom of recent days. Now to what I'll call the B word, bored. How many times have you heard somebody say recently how bored they are? I can't quite imagine that, but there are people who are bored and you can help them out. So if somebody you know is bored with Netflix and the other entertainment available to them, here are some options. Imagined Life is a fun listen to a famous mystery person. You don't find out who they are until the end. And by then, you know a lot about what they were really like before they got famous. Pretty interesting. This podcast has great voice talent and it's just different and fun. Oprah's podcast includes her favorite shows from a legendary 25 years of the Oprah Winfrey Show. And by the way, if there are commercials in any podcast that get tiresome or you've heard them over and over, just click the fast forward icon, the little 30 to the right of the pause, to move through quickly, and you can solve that problem. And if you need to review a word or two, say it again, please. Just click the 15-second rewind icon to the left of the pause. Happier with Gretchen Rubin is lots of short subjects and listener interaction. It's a great, easy listen and fun podcast, especially when you're exercising. I have to confess, I binge listened to Gretchen most of December and January, shortly after finding out about her on a Bulletproof Radio interview. She's a New York Times bestselling author specializing in human nature, formerly a lawyer who clerked with a Supreme Court judge, a very, very bright woman. And I also checked out most of her books from the library because I was so obsessed with her. She co-hosts with her sister, who's an LA screenwriter, and it's really a fun and very current podcast. Now on to Dolly Parton's America. If you like Ken Burns's PBS country music series, you'll love this 9-episode series featuring Dolly Parton's life story. And if you like a podcast enough to share it, note the red arrow icon. It's easy to share a podcast, and it's a fun way to let someone know you thought of them. Can't tell you how many times Ed wakes up to find something waiting for him in his texts, a new podcast episode to listen to. Just below share is the download icon. Now, if you're listening at home, no need to download any episode. That's only for moving beyond your own Wi-Fi, like on a walk. And then you can remove it from your downloads when you're finished. So we're not talking about a lot of storage issues here. Speaking of Dolly, I hope you're feeling richer by now with all those free podcasts just waiting for you to come and get them. I hope you're feeling motivated to add some new shows to your own podcast library, and not just to listen, but to change your health. And I especially hope you'll share about Susie Orman's must-have documents. Let me know on the community forum how many of these podcasts
Keep going.
I lost my words.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, dear.
All right. We love technical problems. Here we are.
Okay, move it up. I have to see everything. Okay. Anyway, I especially hope you'll share how these have helped you feel better or sleep better. And don't forget to share your favorites too. And you can also comment in the survey after the program, or you can email us at programteam@mysca.org. And we'd love to hear from you and get some more good ideas for programs. I think I'm going to be amazing George, because I made sure he wouldn't need to use the hook on me today. So I'm all done, George, and I'm going to give all my extra time to you because I want to hear lots of your great tips on how to save us lots of money.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Becky. Also, something that Becky might not have mentioned, which is one great thing about podcasts, she was talking about the time of some of her podcasts. And like if it's a 30-minute podcast, you can listen to it. You can actually, there's a toggle in most of the podcast players where you can actually speed it up. So if you can comprehend it, because like for me, I actually play my podcast at 1 1/4 speed, which means I save a little bit more time. So a 30-minute podcast probably works out to be about 20, 25 minutes. So that you can actually
George, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, George. I didn't get that fast listening gene. In fact, I more often want to slow them down because
you can do that. That's another thing, Becky. You can slow it down, but that's another option. But for those of us who got a lot of podcasts that we're trying to get in, because I'm a lot of people, I definitely agree with you, Becky. I love podcasts. I'm really about ready to cut off my DVR and actually just go podcast. And not watch anything on television, just do podcasts. Because one nice thing about podcasts, you control what you listen to. You have total control. And then also the other keyword, because you know me and Techmiser, free. Okay, but thank you, Becky, for that information. But right now we're going to actually go to Dave Ginsburg, our president, with a special announcement. Dave, we cannot hear you. Can't hear you, Dave.
Yeah, it's because I'm muted.
Okay, now we can hear you, Dave. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I have a special announcement. We're going to officially announce the photography SIG. Let me just share my screen real quick here and bring the slide up. There we go. And the official announcement is that the Suburban Chicago App Users Photography SIG is going to start Wednesday, June 17th. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Of course, it'll be virtual over here on Zoom. We're going to have a lot of fun with a lot of great things with that. And I just want to make sure everybody is aware of it. And it's on the calendar now. And we're also going to be putting it out on Facebook. And then we'll also be sending out emails to everybody, every member, so they can join in through Zoom. So yes, new photography SIG, yay.
Okay, so look forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday, June the 17th. Thank you, Dave, for that announcement.
Thank you.
Okay, and now, I guess it's my turn.
It's your turn.
Okay, actually, believe it or not, I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Let's see.
Now we can.
Now you can. Okay. Just want to let everybody know that don't forget that we actually do have a website at myscau.org. Okay. The one thing about, in case, this has been very troubling with me this week. When I actually talk to you guys about the Techmiser segment, I always use things that are actually pointed as to what's going on and things that have actually come up. This week has been a very troubling week for me personally, because I have experienced the two Chicagos. We know that there's a lot of things going on in the news, because I am George, just like what has happened with George Floyd. we all pay a price for what is going on. And there was a podcast that I'm going to post this in our community. And I was shocked when I listened to this podcast as to the cost that we actually pay for the racism and things that are going on in our country right now. I'm post this in our community, and please take a listen to it because it's actually very eye-opening and shocking. But also, switching gears, there is a free movie that's going on right now on all platforms. It is dynamic, of course, on the Apple TV, and it is listed in iTunes. It's called Just Mercy. It is a very, very good movie, and especially very timely in our current environment. Okay, and I just want to say that, remember, we are all humans and we are all tied together. God put us here for a purpose, to love one another, and he gave us our commandments in Exodus 20. Okay, but switching gears, I don't know
Thank you, George. Thank you for bringing that up. We appreciate that.
Sure, no problem. Also, switching gears, for those of you in the community, you probably noticed that I posted this yesterday. Target is offering a $15 gift card when you purchase a $15 Target gift card when you purchase a $100 iTunes gift card. And if you're like me, you have the red card, you get an additional 5% off. So for $95.75, and how do I know that? Because yes, I purchased one. Because I had to purchase the movie Just Mercy and it's on sale for $4, by the way. And I didn't have any money in my iTunes account. And I just was like, okay, I got to find a deal. So I found this deal. So, but yeah, for $95.75, I got $100 in iTunes, and I got an additional $15 to Target, because we all go to Target, we all go to Costco, okay, and Sam's, and yeah. But I would definitely tell you guys, you definitely, this is one, by the way, it's ending tonight, this deal right here, okay? And by the way, see, I posted it yesterday. So if you're not a member of this community, you have to actually sign up. Send us an email by going to our website. And if you're not a member, please don't hesitate to sign up at mysau.org, because we love members, okay? But here's another deal. You probably have heard us talk about iMazing and maybe Text Expander. There is a website called Mac Heist, and they are offering a bundle right now. Several different, there's like 11 award-winning programs, and iMazing's included this, and also Text Expander and Parallels. This is, as it says here, $1,000 worth of programs for $60. I was like, I wish I had got this deal, but I'm bringing it to you, and I'll post this in the community. This is Mac Heist. They actually have other bundles on this website too. But by the way, and you're probably like, well, what's iMazing? iMazing lets you do amazing things with your iOS devices. Because one thing that I love that it does is it automatically backs up my devices. I love that program. And it gives you great control over your iOS devices. And Parallels allows you to run run Windows on your Mac. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on anything that I actually brought up? But there's 11 different programs in here.
Just a lot of thanks for you for your previous discussion. And I also mentioned that Parallels also runs you can do virtual Mac too, if you want.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is true. That is true. By the way, there is another thing that I want to say too. I have been in Apple users groups for, let's see, before I can drive. So I think about the age of probably about 15. From Dayton, Detroit, Chicago, Columbus, Ohio. I have always been treated as an equal. And I love that about the Mac community. Even when I also went to Macworld and Macstock, I have loved this community. You guys have helped me grow up and also have a career in computers. And I really do appreciate that.
We appreciate you, George.
Sure, thank you. And with that, I am going to actually introduce our next speaker. I tell you, I don't know what to say about this guy. Okay, yeah, I do. It's Bill Geraci. Bill loves helping people understand the use of these things called computers. He's worked with computers from the Apple computers from the 1990s. He has built an invaluable reputation of being the go-to guy. He is at the University of Chicago. Okay, he is the current He also plays an organ too, which is really shocking. He, by the way, he's also a fellow hybrid driver. He has a Prius. Bill's one of those persons that actually made me decide to get a hybrid. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce Bill Geraci, and he's going to talk to us today about something Mac related. Go ahead, Bill.
Hi, everybody. So it's me. I know you've been missing me. Well, okay, maybe you've been missing me. But as I sit here in the marble halls of my studio with my second assistant producer aiding me in my cutaway coat, cutaway formal wear, I think that I should show you some stuff. The question is, what should I show you? Hold on. One moment. I'm going to try and share my screen. Always exciting. Let's see if this actually works. My gosh, it seems to have worked. I'm going to show you how I use Note Text Edit. So here on my dock is Text Edit. I can enlarge that for you who may not be able to see that as easily. It's always there. I always have this program on my dock. And by that, I mean I use it constantly. What do I use it for? Well, I use it for notes. Yeah, I know that's kind of silly, but there you go, have it. If I do File, New, I get a document. And what I usually do is put it way over here on the side like that. And then I give it a bunch of returns and I say stuff and I keep notes and I periodically save it. What's the point? The point is having a record because I'm old. I'm old, quite old. And so I forget stuff. I mean, that's my excuse. It could be dumb as a post, but I'm going to say that I just forget stuff. And I use this program for that. Now you'll notice when I started typing, it came out in a particular font. That's not random. The default is Helvetica, which is awful. But if you go to Preferences in the Text Edit app, one of the things that you can do is set the plain text font. So my plain text font default is Times Roman 18. Why is it Times Roman 18? Because it's a serifed font and it's a size that actually human beings can read without extra sets of glasses. And so if I click on this, I can change the font to something else. So for instance, I could change it to Times Roman 24 point. And this is called the fonts dialog box. It's a system level generated thing. Notice it has recently used, it has all fonts. Anyone ever looked at all fonts? I mean, this is just scary. But
there's many.
They've kindly enough given us just English language ones, separating out the Thai. I don't write a lot of things in Thai, T-H-A-I. And then there are favorites. Now, here's one of the things that pisses me off, technically speaking. It's a technical term. If I choose SCAU bold 64, and I like that, you see how this just makes me crazy. This thing right here is called the action button. No, really, that's what they call it, the action button. And if you click, right now, it's not black, it's gray. And gray usually means what? That you can't do anything, right? But if you click this, it shows up. See that? This is called corruption of the interface to piss Bill Geraci off. This should be black as a visual clue that you can do something. So right here, you can add it to favorites. Now, if you have added something to favorites, then you can get back to it very quickly. So here's SCAU bold 64 point. So if I now make a selection and go to favorites, I can change that. That's ridiculous, but that's not the point. The point is that you can control the favorites. And how do I remove from favorites? We're going to solve that another time. Some other stuff I wanted to show about this. So this is essentially just a text editor. When you are someone who has been working on the Mac for a while, this is the replacement for simple text. And if I make a selection of text, there are actually an astonishingly cool number of things I can do to this using this fonts box. I can shadow it. Actually, let's make it bigger so it's more visible. I can turn the shadow on and off. Oop, that's the color. There's shadow off, there's shadow on, and you can adjust and control the shadow. That's how much shadow there is. There's how fuzzy it is, and there's the angle. And there's even more. By the way, this little double chevron thing means there's more stuff if you make the window bigger, see? So you can change the angle the shadow is going at. So you can change the angle, there it is, see? So you can make it go very far away, and you can change the angle. And if I now get out of this, you'll see that, well, it doesn't go below the baseline, but that's another matter. Now, that's pretty sophisticated formatting for just a bloody little text editor. And the answer is, you're right, it is pretty sophisticated formatting for a bloody little text editor. But this text editor is written by Apple, and it calls on the powerful services of the operating system. I should know what this is. Something in the operating system that's a layer that allows you to manipulate text. Yeah, that thing. One of the reasons we have a Mac is so we can do this cool stuff. You can also change the color of whatever you have selected. Oh, by the way, this is called the color palette, this thing here. The color palette is a system level thing again. And there are a bunch of different options here. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it. There's a bunch of different options here. This one is the color wheel. And the color wheel allows you to control opacity. Opacity means if you can see through the bloody thing, and intensity, and you can click over here and get yellow. This is the sliders, RGB and CYMK sliders. These values actually mean something, and here's the hex color. I know you wanted to see that. I don't know what any of this crap means, which is okay because the crayons are there. I know what crayons mean. I can use crayons. So when I'm using the color palette, I always go to the crayons because I understand what I'm doing. And you see, by the way, this has changed quite dramatically over here because I did things to the color. See, isn't that beautiful? No? Okay, well, it doesn't matter if it's beautiful. The point is you can do that kind of stuff just in a text editor. That is text edit. So you're saying, well, why not use Word or Pages or something? The answer is, I don't want to use Word or Pages. Those are complicated programs that do sophisticated stuff. Okay, I've just been showing you sophisticated stuff that this program does. But the point is it's easier to use than those, and it's less demanding. Has anyone got any Q&A for me? No open questions. Okay. That's what I had to show off. Now we're now going to attempt to do questions. You recall that my gig here is usually doing the question thing, question and answer, to show how wonderful I am. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was to help you guys. Anyone know how to do the Q&A thing?
Yep, we're in there. There's no questions at the moment. Does anybody have any questions for Bill? We'll even open it up for you can talk to him if you want to raise your hand.
How about this, Bill? As far as tips on using Apple Mail.
Yeah.
Any tips you can give as far as the greater use, or have actually Mail do some automated things for you? Mail work for you instead of you work for Mail.
No. That's a wonderful question, but I have one of my constitutional elements of trying to be a good teacher is I only actually teach about things I actually know about, and I don't use Mail. My employer has gone with Microsoft stuff. Don't get me started. And so we use Outlook. And when the people whom I support and work with use a program called Outlook, I'm going to use that program so I can actually say things like, yeah, I've done that. That happens to me. So I haven't used Mail in years and years and years. So the short answer is no.
So no. Well, okay, let's talk about Outlook. Since you actually, let's talk about
questions.
Hold on, let's do some audience questions first, and then we'll come back.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Team George, you want me to do it?
I can actually have the window open. I can do it. Now that I know it's there.
In the Q&A.
Yeah. So what happened to boot camp? Last I heard, boot camp is still there. Boot camp is an Apple innovation that allows you to set up a partition of your hard drive where you can format and install the Windows operating system and run Windows as if your computer were a Windows machine. That's way cool. And as far as I know, it's still there. Can you put graphics in the text? Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so I'm going to make a screenshot by doing Command Shift 4. See, it turns into the arrow, and I'm going to hold the Control key and press and drag. And that makes a screenshot, but it puts it into the clipboard. And then I'm going to go here. Actually, to make this a nice demo, I'm going to save it in its current form. And well, I'm going to accept the defaults because I really don't care. And then I'm going to go back into this document. 1 second, please. So it's Untitled 3, which is a crappy name, but that's okay. And now I'm going to go here and I'm going to go paste. Command V for paste. Now, look at this. This is genius. Do you want to convert this document to RTDF? That is the default for text editors, RTF, rich text format. And RTFD is rich text format with a D after it. I don't know what the D stands for. Documents with graphics and attachments will be saved into what it says there. Compatible convert anyway. So we're going to convert this. And you see it's actually going to change next time I save it. 1 second. When I save it, see, it actually changes the end of the thing. You used to have to do this as a manual step. And now this one icon here on the desktop, that's where I saved it to, includes the graphic. That will work fine Mac to Mac. If you send it to someone who doesn't have a Mac, sad, isn't it? Then you can, it'll show up as a .zip file, I think, because it contains the attachments in a folder. The short answer is it'll work. The longer answer is there's some finagling that goes on. But yes, you can put graphics into a text edit document. Like I say, it's my default word processor. Remove font. Oh, here's how to do the remove the font from the thing. So if I make a selection here and I do Command T, which is the keyboard shortcut for the fonts dialog box, drag it out of the fonts window. So I'm going to drag that out. Oh my God, that's so cute. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but you see a little cloud and you see hear a little sound. That is stolen directly from the Newton. Just so you know. Okay. All fonts and other font collections that include delete the collection selected from the list. Okay, so that's good. Can you save text edit and copy paste to another document? Yes. So here's a saved document, and I'm going to close that. And I'm going to launch Word because that's the word processor. Well, you see, Word isn't even on my dock down here. Excel is, because I use that all the time, but it's in my Fave Apps folder. And of course, I'm not going to explain that at this moment. And Word launches. See why I use TextEdit? Because Word is big. Get out of my face. I'm going to go in here. And I'm going to do right click. Right click. I'm not going to do right click. I'm going to do paste. And there is, oh, that was what was on the clipboard. So let's go back into here. Get rid of that. And I'm going to select this text. And I'm going to edit copy. And I'm going to go into my Word document. And I'm going to go down to the end. And I'm going to do edit paste. And there it is. Note the shadowing doesn't come across. is the shadowing is the formatting. Well, actually, maybe some of it does, not very much of it. But yes, you can copy and paste text from a text edit document into another document. Your friend of mine text edit cooperates correctly with your friend of mine, the Macintosh clipboard. Okay, that was cool. Let's explain this down here. If you all will indulge me. I'm not going to save that. I don't care about that. Okay, so if you look at my doc, let's do some doc stuff. Doc is fun.
Hey, Bill, before you go to that, question for you.
Yep.
Microsoft has been making all of these changes when it comes to their programs lately. How do you feel about them?
Bad.
Okay. I was just wondering. No, and you know what, Bill? I'm gonna tell you because I just wondered if it was just me because I'm just like because I have to use them during my work too, and I'm just like, okay, this latest change. I'm like, okay, I've had enough with you people just changing this stuff.
I will be happy to add my rant to yours. So the reason this is being done, first I'll say why and then I'll say what. The reason this is being done is because of money. That shouldn't surprise any of you. Microsoft likes money. Actually, everybody likes money. Actually, I like money. Okay, so it used to be that when you were a programmer writing a piece of software, you came out with an upgrade that you charged money for when A, the product was finished, which never happens.
Right.
B, your boss says, I don't care, kick it out, because C, you only make money from the upgrade. Okay, so occasionally upgrades, not updates, which are fixes generally, but upgrades usually happen when something big has gone on and there's significant improvement. Sorry, that's the official rationale for upgrades. It may or may not actually be true in any given case. But the real reason they like upgrades is because then they can charge you more money. Well, there's a thing that goes around that problem. It's called subscriptions.
Yes, that's true.
That's called evil in this context. So you used to buy evil, yeah. You used to buy things and then they were yours. And now you lease things and they're theirs, but you're using them.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of things wrong with this model in the computer context. The first one is it's going to cost you more money over time. The second one is that it means that if your piece of software cannot get on the internet to the working servers that are, the cloud, and by that I mean some server somewhere that correctly authenticates that you're currently paid for, it will stop working. Now, that assumes that the internet works, that your internet connection works, and that the internet connection on the other side, the people who manage these servers that do the leasing work, and that their system works. Okay, there's some problems with that. For instance, I think in the last couple of weeks, there was a failure on Adobe's side that stopped their stuff from working.
Right, I heard about that, yes.
And if you store documents in Adobe's cloud, and by that I mean servers someplace, they stopped working, which meant your documents were unavailable. Now there's a technical term for this. This is really bad. This is really bad. It means that your stuff is someplace else under someone else's control, and if things go badly, under their lock and key, and that their stuff has to work right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that the economy goes much worse. I don't like that, but let's pretend for a moment. If the economy goes much worse and all of a sudden you have a lot less money and you want to cut expenses, so you stop these subscriptions to these various services, and then you can't get your documents and do your work. That's bad. Now,
you bring up a very valid point. That's the reason why you let your employer pay for it. but I'm not disagreeing with you, because the one thing about it is that because like myself, my job, we have Office 365, and the nice thing about it is that because of that, I was able to download the whole Microsoft suite, because I'm like, I'm not paying for that, and that was the nice thing. But the one thing that I've actually found out, especially with these latest releases like you're talking about, I was like, they have moved so many things around. And I'm glad I'm actually working from home because I can use my own computer and leave my company's computers actually turned off. And I can actually use Word. I mean, I can actually use Keynote, Pages, and Numbers.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just want to get things done. And I will say that these latest editions with the Microsoft Office, they have moved things around and changed stuff. It's so hard to do a find and replace anymore in Word.
I agree.
I was just like, it's
You hadn't let me get to the good part yet. So the everything I've given so far as reasons this subscription model is bad. I'll tell you now why it's good. You will pay more over time, but you pay less upfront. That's valuable.
right.
In addition to that, you are assured of getting the most recent updates and fixes automatically all the time in the background without you having to think about it or worry about it. And that's good. Well, okay, it may be good. The assumption is therefore that all the updates and fixes that they're doing on their side, A, work at all, and B, don't screw things up. Now, screw things up could mean a couple things. It could mean it doesn't work on your particular system. I mean, think of this. Adobe has how many people paying them money? Hundreds of millions?
That's a very valid point because there are updates that can happen that, okay, it's not working on your machine.
Right. They could release an update that actually doesn't work. I mean, they could screw themselves. That happens.
Right.
A long time ago, your friends and mine at Apple released a minor update to a driver that managed disks. And I don't even think they said very much. This is like System 8. This is a long time ago. And curiously, if you happen to have any external drives connected when you install this update, it erased them. Yeah, that's right. It erased them. Their update did something completely unintentional, completely unexpected, and devastating. Right now, that was up for like 6 hours before they yanked it. But the point is, you know, even guys who's supposed to know what they're doing, I mean, they're Apple, they're supposed to know what they're doing, can screw up on occasion. Fortunately, it's rare. They have a lot of testing and retesting, and yeah, but trust me, in the world of a complex system, the only thing I can guarantee is that it will fail. So the idea about getting automatic updates is not really great.
I'll add a comment if I can.
Sure.
George, unfortunately, not every company allows you to download the suite. Like in my company, I could not. They don't allow employees to install Office. Unfortunately, there are companies out there like that do that.
By the way, we're hiring. No, I'm just kidding.
But I have access to it. But I have access to it anyway. But that's a whole other story. There was a couple questions in the actual, just in the normal chat. John Clark, welcome, John Clark. We miss you. Glad you were able to make it today. His huge surprise, he had found some really awesome advances buried deep in Excel that he didn't find before, but he had been recently using Google Sheets. And then Jen came back and said, I really hate Google Sheets. I use Excel, but she likes numbers. Do you have any thoughts on you said you use Excel all the time, about those products?
Well, there used to be a time when I heard about or got a new piece of software that within a couple of weeks of getting it, maybe a month, I pretty much knew 90% of what that program could do. I don't do that anymore. I'm old. Okay. If no one is paying me to learn something, and if I myself don't want to use it, then I don't learn this. So I've spent about 3 hours in numbers because I've spent probably about 3,000 hours in Excel. And so I already know Excel. Numbers might be twice as good. I don't care. I already know Excel well enough for what I want to do. You see what I'm saying? And yeah. Google Sheets, I'm sorry, it has Google in front of it. I'm not touching their crap with nothing. No, absolutely.
We just talked about that earlier with privacy in Google and browsers.
Yeah, well, not just privacy, it also has the same problems of the Adobe subscription in that it's over there under their control. If they fail, get stupid, do something evil, it's gone.
Right, and for the average home user, which is primarily our audience, numbers, pages, and Keynote are really good for those of you. For the rest of us who actually have to work in two environments because of our jobs, we have to use Microsoft products, whether we like it or not. It's that that's that ugly evil that we have to deal with, unfortunately. So, did we have
the software does work. I mean,
Yeah,
if you can
true.
get work done with it, it's not bad in that sense.
Yeah, but when you and now I know who to come to about Excel. No, I'm just. But by the way, if I will tell you this, if you know Excel, or if you want a good job, learn Excel. Everybody will come beating the path to your door, because it's just, believe me, there is a printer. What is that? Toner for printers and knowing Excel. Those are two golden things.
Really, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Another reason, I mean, I really like Excel. Excel is a fabulous piece of software. And I'm saying that about a Microsoft product? Really?
Yeah,
Because
it
it's
is.
essentially
You just got to learn how to use it.
It's a platform upon which you can build other stuff.
Right.
I mean, if I had HyperCard still, trust me, I'd be playing in that field. But yeah, Excel is fabulous. Word is good, and in fact, in some ways, very good. Okay. We have a question in the Q&A. Why don't your companies use Macs with Boot Camp? Well, the short answer is they don't want to pay twice. I mean, we're Mac users. So you can be a Mac user and then also be able to do Windows stuff with Boot Camp, right? But if you're already a Windows user and you already have an installed base of Windows hardware, and you already have employees who know Windows, then why would you hire more people and buy new hardware that would enable you to run Macs and then run Boot Camp Windows within Macs? You see what I mean? From the viewpoint of already doing Windows, if you run a Mac running Boot Camp to run Windows, you're adding a whole nother layer of support and understanding and complexity.
Right.
If I wanted to do Windows stuff on a regular basis, may the Lords preserve me, then I would probably do Boot Camp fairly regularly. But I don't have that need, fortunately. But I'm already starting as a Mac user. You see, if I'd started as a Windows user, they'd look, why would I have to buy entirely new hardware and learn an entirely new operating system and then run Windows, which I'm used to, inside of that?
Yeah,
I think that's why.
I can throw a comment there. I can throw a comment there about that as well. In my company, we do have some Mac users, maybe about 40, so it's a small audience. But they still don't have no choice in many cases, because they have to get access to systems that don't work in Mac. So we have virtual machines that are set out on the network that can do it. So that isn't as cost prohibitive as Boot Camp or doing Parallels or VMware Fusion and that kind of stuff for virtualization. So companies do that. So
yeah, and that's what our company does. Is we don't use Boot Camp. We actually have virtual machines for when they need to use Windows, and that is essentially the standard, because I've worked at a few different companies, and they normally use the virtual machines for the individuals that use Macs.
Well, that's a perfectly reasonable solution, but that entails a level way above the home users who are the 42 people we're addressing.
Yeah.
Mostly.
We've got some questions in the chat too. You may not be seeing, Bill. I don't know if you saw those about OneNote.
I did not. I don't have access to the chat.
Yes, you can use OneNote on all platforms, essentially. Because I actually use OneNote. I love OneNote. I've just been shocked because we actually moved our knowledge base in my support area to OneNote. And I am using it on the Mac and actually in iOS and iPad. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes, it's a Microsoft program that I actually love, and it is OneNote.
The one thing I'll mention is Microsoft was supposed to eliminate their standalone version of that app, OneNote 2016, I guess it's called right now. And they took a 360 and said, "Oh, we'll keep it for now." They want to move everything to the web and the cloud. They have just a cloud interface app, and then use OneNote that way. And it's backing up over OneDrive.
They can get subscribers, and in theory, they don't have to worry about hardware.
And that's exactly what it is. So you're going to start seeing that more and more even with Microsoft Office. I bet as we go forward, it's going to become more and more cloud.
Well, my standard answer is and stay off my lawn, because the idea that all this stuff moves into the cloud, that assumes that they're doing stuff right in the cloud, as I've expressed in this session now. That assumes everything is doing right. It assumes the cloud is working. By that I mean the internet.
Yep.
And also assumes I have a nice ongoing fast connection to the internet. And I'm not prepared to make those assumptions. So standalone apps running on my machine with my machine storing its own files, and then some stuff going network like Zoom right now, being a network service, that's fine. But my day-to-day bread and butter living only on the cloud and requiring an internet connection just seems like a really galactically bad idea to me.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. I want to thank all our panelists, Bill, Becky, and Dave. And with this, because it's actually our time to close, I want to say for those of you who are not members, don't hesitate to actually go out to our website, myscau.org, and sign up. For those of you who are members and not part of the community, shame on you. Please join us in the community. And you can actually go to the website and actually click on contact us, and we can hook you up with getting on the community. We want to thank you for all of our participants who actually participated in the Q&A, and thank everyone, and see you next time. By the way, don't forget, look out for our email with the evaluation coming soon. I'm George Brooks, and on behalf of all of the board of directors of the Suburban Chicago Apple Users Group, have a good day, and thanks for tuning in.
And wash
Thank
your
you.
hands.
Yes, wash your hands.
Bye-bye.